Well, now at this stage, I don't ask my producers and I. We don't ask anyone to work for free because I did. We did when I was younger. When I was starting to get a little older and more for a while. So I don't feel as comfortable. But even what we will do sometimes is ask if you would do it for this rate. You know,
Sure.
depending on our budget. So there's a payment. But when you're paying someone, it automatically becomes a job. And even if that rate is not normally what they take, it's maybe half. If they agree to it, they agree to showing up for you. So if they say no, I'm never offended. I always give people an out. I know this is low. I'm sorry. This is my first feature. But if you can't do it, we'll find another time. And they might not be able to do it, and I don't take it personal at all. But you will find the person that also needs it, that needs it because they also are at a similar stage where they need that feature to go, you know, like, or they'll be so set and comfortable that, like, through some kind of other job or some other, like, big paying job, that they're willing to do it at that rate because they want to work with you and they want to continue to cultivate relationships with new directors and new voices. So there's like two sides of that. And so that's kind of where I'm at now.
Sure, sure. And I want to say that I speak for everyone who's done unpaid work. We love you want to pay us. That's very awesome.
Yeah, at this point I have to.
It's good to know. It's good to know for you
I
personally.
just, you know, like, I think you got, yeah, I don't feel comfortable. Like, I wouldn't even ask an assistant, or I don't even ask interns. I'm like, I have to pay them something, you know, because it's just, I don't know.
No, I appreciate that. We'll link up, sure.
I don't always have people who have this.
That's an aside. That's sorry.
Yeah, my biggest struggle is kind of a bit more complex. I mentioned I have a very severe intense disability. So just in terms of even outside of film, well, I live a very different existence to most people. I'm in and out of hospital all the time. I rely on sign language to communicate as well. I'm non-verbal sometimes. So the struggle to ask anyone to do something for nothing has been an issue, but the struggle for me comes from I couldn't even figure out how to do what I could do. And in the sense of what I've basically done is I've just worked, obviously, myself to death. Like, nobody talks about the burnout, how many burnouts we have a year in life. But the struggle I've had the most is explaining to them that I won't ask you to do anything more than I would do. I'm the first on set, I'm the last on set. You know, I run a professional set, but I don't mind a good fight as well, and I'll fight for everybody I would work with. So, like, in that sense of the struggle, it's like trying to get into this world and being supported of nothing as well, and bringing myself into an unhealthy situation to do it, kind of gives people a bit of a weird relief to work for me for nothing, because I know kind of what I put on the line to do the stuff I'm doing. But then the struggle in terms of action world, it's a very cutthroat career, because you don't see many mixed race dark female directors until recently. You have Ava and you have Gina. But that 5 years ago when I decided to get into this career, it wasn't there. And that struggle of being very, it's alpha for a reason, is the reason why you don't see directors in the field. But again, you become tough in that space. Yeah.
No, super.
Can I mention something that Zoe talked about, but I think was really important? Certainly in respect to actors in the U.S., if they happen to be like SAG-AFTRA actors, which are the majority of the professional actors, if they work for you for free, they own their performance, which means you can get to the end of that process, and if for any reason they are unhappy, don't like how it ends, whatever, they can withhold that performance, and you cannot use it. If you can't cut around it, you're just out of luck. So the fact that you pay them anything establishes the relationship that they are working for hire. And that means that you own the performance. So it's an important thing to remember that people often say, oh, you know, the contract says I don't have to pay anything up front. Well, you don't, but just understand that that puts you in as big a risk as it does them. If you pay them anything, it's like an attorney that you're gonna talk to about your case, you give them $1 first, you give your actor some money, and that establishes that they are for hire in the view on your performance.
Super, and thank you for that tip. May I ask, does that also apply to deferred payments in terms of on contract?
Absolutely, there is no such thing as a deferred payment. SAG-AFTRA really doesn't have very many things where you don't have to pay anything. And again, you don't really want to do it. Most of them are just low budget contracts, which are greatly discounted from the basic. So it can be as little as maybe, it's actually probably like a fifth of what the basic agreement is. For the lowest feature, it's $300,000 and less for an ultra low. And the pay is, it's actually going into negotiation soon, but it's about $250 a day.
A day, yeah, okay.
I think it's a little higher than that right now, but it's also about to go up again.
Sure. All that makes a lot of sense, for sure. May I ask, and I'm not sure how plugged in the whole panel is, but in terms of the negotiations with SAG-AFTRA and IATSE, I understand that there were some more talks after the deal went through because of capture of actors in terms of their like 3D imaging, so they could put them in like filling stands and such. We looked into this a bit last year, and it's fascinating because one thing that caught me off guard was that many thousands of actors have already had their likenesses taken when they were on other roles, and then it was only made obvious what it was being used for after they already did it and they already signed it off. So I wonder if you guys can speak to what the struggles may be and if, how much of a alarm is being sounded in your spaces.
Well, I don't know. I'm in the DGA and I'm in the WGA, and I'm actually in SAG-AFTRA. I don't like. Listen.
It was a big question.
I have a very controversial view on this because I think, having worked in studio systems, I see where these unions are so important because they will take and take and take and take, and they are earning so much off of your work, artistry, and they will try to pay the least as possible. So the fact that there's a union regulated rules that keep you protected are so important. In the indie space, and I'm talking more like ultra low budget, it gets very tricky working with them. So that's kind of all I can say, because sometimes the rules are made for much larger budgets and not necessarily for a smaller budget to exist. And I'm mainly, because I haven't done SAG-AFTRA in a long time, I've worked with SAG actors, but in the WGA and DGA, the contracts are very much made for like $1 million+ budgets, which are not, other than when I work on television, I get those, but when in film yet, I have not really gotten that level. So it becomes very difficult to deal with my own unions. And so, like, I'm hoping it changes a little bit to not eliminate that level of production in the US.
Sure. I'm sorry for Miss Martha. To Jana? Is it
Oh, I know. No, it's to Joe.
To Joe. Yeah,
Yes,
apologies.
it's a wild fun name.
Yeah.
What I would say to that, again, I suppose in the relativity to my genre, I end up working in the stunt and fight people, and the actors tend to be, again,
about the death and the killing, yeah.
fun stuff. But to that point, you're not going to work with action stars unless you have 10 million budget,
Sure.
actors-wise. So a lot of the actors that I'm working with are either fighters that go into acting, or actors that are starting out who want to get into fighting, because there's no way I can afford somebody who is like badass actor who also does that anyway. So in terms of, in relation to that, I don't technically do